So we're going through the gate. Stand at the gate, just we'll go back to the chapel. The side of the chapel. Yeah. Yeah, the first thing about the chapel is that in the penal laws in the 1700s there was no chapel, and there was supposed to be a mass rock up. The old entrance up the Flynn's was there beside Martin Fitzpatrick's home. That's where the old post office was. And there was supposed to be a carrigan off from their mass rock up on that lane near Flynn's home place. And eventually there was a chapel opened in Courbeog, a fellow called, I think it was Lewis. He was a travelling writer, and he described it as one chapel in Cavan and one at Courbeog, and he spelled Courbeog C-O-L-B-E-A-G-U-E, which is different than the way we spell it, but anyway, it was Lewis, yes. And we know then in 1824 from another press cutting that the chapel was still there in 1824. We know that there was a chapel then moved to Boylan's Lane, Riley's Lane, that was there in 1857. So then we know then that this opened because it's 150 years old just the last month or 2 months ago, 14th of June I think it was, and this was opened in 1863. And much is written about the chapel. I mean, it's supposed to be an architectural gem, and it is an architectural gem, but it's probably the ones that are in it all the time or in it from they were young don't realise the gem it is. But strangers are enthralled by its beauty, and it is a very beautiful chapel. And it was built by the architect was Haig, and his father was the builder, and it was built for £1,400. And there was a plaque just behind where Michael is there. There's a plaque to the centenary of William Haig, who died in 1899, I think it was. And it was unveiled by President, I think it was McAleese, was it, or was it Robinson? It was McAleese. And as a mark of remembrance to them. And let's not forget, we don't know, Mrs. MacDonald thought that the Riley people that we mentioned earlier on, the three burials, she said that they were buried to the right hand side of the entrance. Mrs. Duffy thought it was to the left. And there's other people say it was actually in front of the chapel. So we don't know actually, and strangely for people that were so religious, and from a time where religion was so strong, strangely there wasn't a denotation or a mark of where these people, and they were very well off people. They could afford to put down a really good memorial stone, but it never was put down. So I don't understand why it is that there wasn't a memorial stone here put down to know where they were buried. Just the garden here is just an interesting little story. Mrs. Duffy, I remember telling me there was a Mrs. Brady lived up where our house was. She built the three houses, Lizzie and Harry's, Keaveney's. I don't know who's living in Keaveney's now, and where we live. And she used to organise the children in the school, and she used to have flower beds here. And 5 or 6 boys and girls would be given a certain flower bed, and they were all tended during the year. As I presume it was to provide flowers for the chapel. But it was a lovely little idea. But, so now you see the chapel now. Yeah, the mill, then we didn't talk about the mill when we were over there. The mill was going from at least 1626, because we have a record, we found it in a thing called the Chancery Salvage Papers in Dublin, the Public Record Office in Dublin. We found a reference to Butler's Bridge, and it said, the exact words, a townland at Butler's Bridge with a corn mill was leased by Sir Stephen Butler. This is the guy who was given the 13,500 acres. Was leased by Sir Stephen Butler for £20 per annum, sometime before 1626. So there was actually a mill in operation across there, going back many years, 400 years ago, whatever it is. And a mill was probably the first sign of industrialisation any place. Wherever you had a mill, you had employment, and of course it was so necessary for feeding animals and for keeping the population alive. And I think mainly it was associated in earlier centuries with with the clergy, with the Drumlane Abbey, those people who ran the abbeys, the Abbey and Drumlane Abbey and Orney Abbey and all these places. So anyway, I think that mill closed in 1855. The river was drained here in the 1840s and 1850s, and I think part of that the land drainage in the town, people bought that. There's no reference to it there's no reference to it since. There was also a mill down in Hackledy where Sean O'Hare lives, and Sean O'Hare did live where Cathy lives, and it was owned by John Baker of Baker's Bridge, and it was run by the O'Hares, and it's sadly closed too. So we moved from here over to the bus office.